That's my intention with my sharing in any form, is to really inspire different perspective in people, because I think the journey that I've had has helped me have a different perspective than many would assume, and that's been the theme for the last 11 years now, since my first diagnosis of a brain tumor. And it was always the, oh, you're so crazy to do that, or like, aren't you scared? And it's just like, man, it's just like, it all depends on what you want.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How's it going?
Good. I am so excited to talk to you today. I think meeting you over the internet was one of the most incredible experiences in my brain tumor journey, because I think the words that you have shared with everyone in our community these past couple of years have really impacted the way that I live my life and especially how I pursue my career. So I would love for you to share a little bit about your past and what led up to the book, medical journey, as well as your very incredible past.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you sharing that. That's my intention with my sharing in any form, is to really inspire different perspective in people, because I think the journey that I've had has helped me have a different perspective than many would assume, and that's been the theme for the last 11 years now, since my first diagnosis of a brain tumor. And it was always the, oh, you're so crazy to do that, or like, aren't you scared? And it's just like, man, it's just like, it all depends on what you want. And so us connecting, and then you giving me the opportunity to share in your book, my perspective on the journey that I've gone through. It was really amazing, and to see, what you've done from your experiences and how far you've come in just such a short amount of time has been awesome. And to be connected, it's been great. And just yeah, for those, oh man, where do I start? So like, I guess in a nutshell, I was 17 years old when I dropped out of high school with the support of my family to move from Massachusetts down 13 hours south to North Carolina to pursue BMX. And it was 3 or 4 years after that where I had ridden X Games. So that was like dream come true for any BMX athlete, skateboard, or anything like that. And so I was like living my dream and some. And then the next year I had fallen and hit my head, got a concussion, and got an MRI. Well, a year prior to that MRI, I'd been having debilitating headaches, migraines, vision loss, vomiting, nausea, all these classic symptoms. But I was denied a scan because what the outside of me looked like, I looked like health to the doctors. I was healthy, I was young, I was in shape. So fast forwarding to that concussion where I had to get an MRI, they accidentally diagnosed me with a massive brain tumor taking up a pretty large portion of the left side of my brain. And that was the beginning of this perspective shift for my life. And two diagnoses later, throughout the next 7 years, put me in a position I am today, where I walked away from BMX competition professionally on my own terms. I wanted to contribute to society with a higher mission than myself, which BMX was all me. Like, it was just something I wanted to do. It was an escape, a negative past. It was freedom of expression. It was just a dream I had, but it wasn't really serving other people besides my parents. They're proud of me. They were, so I could help them out. But the third diagnosis, leaving me with 4 tumors in my skull today, still, I was just like, at the time, it's like, what do I do with this? And I've been learning a lot about health and mindset and taking care of your inner health, your external health. And I was like, man, I gotta leave BMX behind, and I gotta fulfill this new passion, this new purpose of contributing to the world. And that's where I am today. Never thought I'd be speaking around the world in front of people I don't know. So I speak. I have a coaching business. I have some other projects in the works to kind of continue, I'd say, my mission, but to reach more people and to continue progressing that way. So for us to get connected just made sense. The path I was on, another outlet to share my perspective, to share what value I had to offer the world, and here we are again today.
And then 3 years later, how are you doing health wise since the book?
Oh, I'm great. Yeah, I so it's been a year actually. This coming week will be a year since I've ridden my bike. So at the start of 2020, I decided that I want to take a year off. I was no longer had any obligation to ride my bike. I didn't have sponsors. I didn't have contests. $0 paying my expenses and putting money in my bank account came from riding my bike, like it did for 10 plus years. So I was like, all right, I'm in this new space. I'm pursuing a new passion, a new business. Let me and just see what it does. And I have never felt mentally and physically better since I was like 14. Makes sense. BMX is a very abusive sport, but my health couldn't be better, inside and out. I've taken a really big, deep dive into learning about psychology and the unconscious mind. And applying my nutrition passion to that. And it's been a great thing.
I think it's really interesting how you put so much of yourself into BMX. And I think I was the same way as a young person. I put everything I had into my career. And so when this new thing came into my life, I wasn't sure exactly how to react to that. How was that shift from being 100% into this sport to realizing that there's things outside of this sport as well?
I'd say it was split between interesting and kind of like, I'd say devastating, but that seems to be a very strong word. And the reason I say that is because it was like, oh, there's other things I can be passionate about besides riding my bike, which
Yeah.
started at 13 years old, and I made a career out of it. It literally saved my life, because if it wasn't for hitting my head, I don't know if I'd be alive today. But then it was also, I went through 2 years, because I rode at the same level even when I stopped competing for 2 years, even when I was building my business and speaking and doing all these new things. But then there was this piece of me that was, in a sense, I thought was dying, and it created this identity crisis, if you will, for some years, until I came to terms of like, that was just an expression of me. That didn't define me. And so now it's been amazing. But yeah, I'd say that perspective shift was just like, oh, curiosity, interesting, open to new ideas. And then there was like a little bit of sadness, a little bit of fear. But then now I've been able to make a lot of clarity within that, and it's been nothing but positive now.
Someone asked me the other day what happiness is for me. And I said, whenever I get to combine my talents and my passion, through this thing that a lot of people think is such a terrible thing, I have found a passion for people and a passion to tell stories of people who no longer have a voice of their own. So anytime I get to combine my talents and my skills with that, that's when I'm really happy. I would love to read something from your chapter in the book. I've been ending everyone's interviews with the question, what is your definition of luck? And do you think you're lucky? And a lot of people have said that they believe they are lucky, but they have this kind of interesting definition that we create our own luck. And I think that's something that a lot of brain tumor survivors have. But I just remember we were in Barnes and Noble at the Grove at the launch of this book. And I asked you the same question on the panel, and you had a very interesting perspective on it. And I thought it just gave such a unique way to view this illness and view the perspective that you hold on life. I wanted to read this part that was in bold. You said, I hear people say I am lucky. It must be so nice to do that in regards to my career and lifestyle. Or that's got to be the worst thing to ever happen to you. I hear them nonstop in regards to me, my life, and my story. None of it is true unless you decide to see it that way. Luck had nothing to do with it. It was all due to taking action, a belief, and never giving up. 3 years later, do you have the same perspective on luck, and do you consider yourself lucky now?
So I think if I remember correctly, at the book launch, the answer I had about what luck means to me was something like the saying, when like luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yep.
And that's still something I believe in, because people will say, oh, you're lucky this, or you're lucky for that, and I do believe in luck. Like, you could get lucky rolling the dice, playing a game, or winning the lottery. Like, you could argue, well, you still took the action. So I still have the same perspective. For someone to say, oh, you're lucky to be alive today, I'm like, well, am I lucky to be diagnosed and to have the surgery of a brain tumor removed from my skull and all the risks? Or am I fortunate to be here today? Am I grateful to be here today? Because like you just read from my excerpt, like, luck doesn't have anything to do with it. I got diagnosed with something that you have as well. Like, is that lucky? Because depending on the perspective, some think that's the worst thing that could ever happen to you. But I think it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because it changed who I was inside and out. And it put me on this new trajectory in my life that I could never have fathomed before.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was lucky that I'm here, that you're here. I think it was something that happened to us. One, you could look at it many different ways. People like to make meaning out of things. We're humans. That's what we do. We try to make meaning out of everything. But I think that it truly happened to us because we were able to overcome, and we were able to do something with it. And I don't think that that's luck. I think that's the type of person we are. And the things we do are expressions of ourselves. For you, it happens to be acting. For me, it happened to be BMX riding, and now it's very different things. But at the end of the day, I think it is what you make it to be, and I don't see it as luck, because I think that disempowers me. And I would argue that you'd agree the same thing. we're empowered and we want to empower other people. So luck has nothing to do with it because it's still a choice every day to get up and do what we do, despite what we've gone through or what we may still be going through. And that's anyone, any walk of life. Doesn't matter if you're a brain tumor survivor or if you just got laid off from a job, you got whatever. It's the same thing.
And I actually found you through the internet.
Yep.
I remember I knew that I wanted to create this book, and I wanted to tell the stories of people that were different but the same. And I think we accomplished that. And I didn't really know if it was going to turn out that way, but everyone had a different diagnosis story. Everyone had different types of tumors. But if you read it, the emotions and the experiences, a lot of them are extremely similar. I remember I searched hashtag brain tumor. It was like the most simple thing ever on Instagram. And I was scrolling and I came across one of your posts, and you were so raw and you told the truth about brain tumors. And I think that's something that can be really hard to do. Was there ever a time where you were reluctant to share your story, or were you kind of, forward with it from the very beginning?
Yeah, I'd say the beginning was really, there was a lot of resistance, and it happened to be a BMX interview. Obviously, wanting to share, what was going on with me to the BMX community and then anyone else that came across it, but why I wasn't able to attend certain events and things like that. And it just happened to get out there. So we made a plan to announce it. But at the beginning, it was really hard for me to even go through the interview because I felt, as a young man, I felt weak. I felt embarrassed because I was diagnosed with something like an illness that, I was like, oh, am I weird? Am I broken now? Like, what are people going to think of me? And like, I was raised to, don't show emotion, just rub some dirt on it and go move forward and get up, try again. So when this happened to me, it was just a really interesting time to want to share that. And I had never really been public about anything besides BMX. All the interviews and articles that I was involved with was just about my riding. And so here I am being very vulnerable and speaking about, emotions and physical diagnosis of something, and not being able to ride my bike. Cause I mean, when I was diagnosed, they said, you'll probably never ride your bike again. And so like I was going through all these things. And so to see where that was, this April will be 11 years. In 2021, April will be 11 years. And to see where I was then and where I am now, it's a vast difference. And I really encourage other people. Like I think one of our biggest strengths as human beings, like our superpowers, are authenticity, just genuinely being who you are and sharing that. Because I've learned, and I see the same thing with you and why you put the book together, like as you share and you share more aspects of your life, more and more people will resonate. And you never know. I never knew who I potentially would have helped by just sharing what I was going through and then getting back on my bike. I didn't know what that message was. And then I was hearing from all sorts of different people, whether they rode BMX, they were young, they were old, they were different sport, anything, like thanking me for sharing that, because in them, it instilled this belief. And I see that with you, and I see that with the other people in the book that contribute chapters. It's the same thing. And so I think it's just something that I've really become, or really gone all in on. And I see that with you. And I think that's something people could, maybe take that perspective of like, and our superpowers of being just authentic, just be genuinely who we are, because we don't know who will inspire along the way.
Amazing. Do you have any words for people who are currently fighting, or just anyone who wants to know more about the perspective of what it's like to be a survivor and a fighter?
So I think the thing I want to say that'll hit both of those different aspects is really just what I've come to learn is what helped me overcome. And I would assume you would say the same thing. It's rather than focusing on your circumstances of what is now, go all in on the vision that you want to be true about your life moving forward. And so it got to a point, I talk about this a lot. I got to a point where I had to really learn what fear for my life was, not judgment, not failure, not, breaking a bone, but like literally potentially losing my life. And it cut to the moment where the diagnosis was worse than the surgery. Because before the surgery, it was just, there's no room for it anymore. Like this is the only option I have, or I could just see what happens if I don't go through with it. So it got to a point where I didn't focus on, what if I don't wake up? I didn't focus on it anymore. I just focused on what am I going to be doing when I do wake up? What do I want to be true in my life? And I think that's the strongest piece of advice I can give anyone. Doesn't matter what you're going through. If you focus on what you want to be true about your life, you'll see your internal world shift as well as your external world shift as a result.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. And I think it's really amazing how you were able to, this word has been coming up a lot, reevaluate. The world is going through its own reevaluation right now. A lot of things that we thought were so certain and were mandatory just a couple months ago are now no longer existent. A lot of companies are not going to go back to offices. You know, a lot of people are switching careers completely. The whole world is kind of going through this little shift that I think a lot of us went through a couple of years back. Has quarantine brought any new emotions or any new perspective shifts for you? Or is it kind of just you always knew it was going to be this way eventually and now everyone sees it too?
Yeah, it's just reinforced all my beliefs and the values. And like you mentioned, reevaluate. Like I had to, I use the word audit. Like when I was diagnosed, I really had to audit how I was living my life, reevaluate the ways I was living, and that just slowly progressed. And people say 2020 was the worst year ever, and like I just like, man, I don't think it was. I don't think it was any different than other years, except for perspective shifts, because it decided, or it became a very visible thing that affected everyone on the, a large scale. But the same challenges of being a human being have always been there, and the micro looks different. So for me, 2020 just allowed me to go inward more and to learn more about myself, reevaluate different things, different priorities, and just really learn who I was. And rather than reacting to things, whatever you want to name in 2020, just really, allow me to take a second to respond, to really see things. And there was a friend of mine just brought me to his office the other day for the first time and showed me around. He has a drawing from his pastor that has the word respect separated with R-E and then spect after it. And I believe actually I have it right here, because it was an amazing thing on this topic, and I'd never seen it broken down this way. But below it, it says, so respect. Looking is instinct, seeing is choice. So there's a very, very different approach there. So to respect something is to really see it, but seeing is a choice. So going back with response versus reactions, it just 2020 has allowed me to really see things and then make a choice of how I want to move forward with responding to it rather than just emotionally reacting. And that's something that 2020 has really solidified for me. That's been, in the works for 10 plus years now on a conscious level.
Do you have any things you would like to share with everyone before we leave?
No, I mean, I want to thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the book. That was an awesome opportunity. I got to meet some amazing people, and just thank you for reaching out in general, to kick all that off. But I think, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to focus on what you want to be true in your life, no matter what your circumstances at the moment, because I truly believe that's why you and I are the places we are today, is because we didn't let a circumstance define us. We were defined by what was in our mind moving forward. And I think if people took that approach more often, it's not easy, but it's that simple to just focus on what you want to be true about your life. Because when you focus, or what you focus on, your energy is going to go there. And then you're going to start to see your awareness open up to opportunities to make true what you want to be true about your life. And I think it just starts there, just starts on auditing, reevaluating whatever you're focusing on. And that could be, consuming content, that could be the people you're hanging out with, that could be right here. What are you thinking about? What are you focusing on? Because it's so easy to focus on what we don't want to be true, but that unconsciously leads you to making those opportunities more and more available, rather than take the harder route and just focus on what you want to be true and keep that in mind every day. And I think that that's the thing I want to leave people with, is just focus on what you want to be true about your life rather than what's in your reality right now.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Josh, for joining us. It was wonderful catching up, and I'm so glad you're doing well.